In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Transformers trading card game to follow up on the interview that we published yesterday. So right now what I've got in my hands are, through various sources and people donating and so forth, a series of the cards that are going to be in the game. Now these are the character cards. I don't have any of the battle cards yet outside of what's in the SDCC Gen Con exclusive pack, which I have not opened yet, but we will see that here shortly. In the meantime, I wanted to go over these cards, talk a little bit about what they do, and a little bit what I think about them, because not everything is great, but most of it's pretty great. So let's start with the original starter set. The starter set includes enough cards for 2 players that can start playing the game, and each of the character teams are 2 cards each. And then they split or share the deck of battle cards, or it says one player can use 4 character cards and 40 battle cards for full gameplay against another player. So right out of the bat, it is a very inexpensive price. I think it's $15 to $20 depending on where you get it when it comes out on September 28th. But essentially it comes with 4 of the foil Transformers character cards, 20 of the battle cards. It comes with the damage counters so that you can keep track of your robot's hit points, and then the 2-player starter set rules for the basic version of the gameplay. And as I said, these are going to be available on September 28th in the United States, and in other countries it just says they're going to come later in 2018. So with the character cards, here's where I find the first problem. There's 4 cards, and in each of these 4 cards, they're all Autobots. So you're not going to find a true battle scenario. You're going to have Optimus Prime, Autobot Leader, Bumblebee, Brave Warrior, Ironhide, Veteran Autobot, and Red Alert, the Security Chief. Now that in itself isn't so bad, but the problem comes from the fact that it's kinda not really the same when you've got Optimus Prime and Ironhide versus Bumblebee or Red Alert or whatever it happens to be that your 2 players choose, or if you're got another starter deck and you're just playing against each other, then you've got the same characters fighting alternate versions of themselves. Now one thing to keep in mind, these aren't the only versions of Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Ironhide, and so on. Each card has, at the top of their card, they have the name, and underneath of it their type. So this type is what changes from character to character. So while there might be an Optimus Prime Autobot Leader in the starter deck, so the version I have here is Optimus Prime Freedom Fighter, which is a completely different card. I'm not sure about the stats being differently, but I can find that out here shortly. But as we talked about in the interview, they have their attack, their defense, and their hit points. Some, but not all characters have is a gray box with an additional ability or power. And this is Optimus Prime in his robot mode. And as you can see up here in the corner, you have his leader type, and he's a melee fighter. So he's going to base his attacks on that. Down here you see what the stats are in alt mode, so you don't have to flip it over because they do change from mode to mode. In his alt mode, his offense is 6 and his defense is 1, whereas in his robot mode his defense is 2 and his offense is only 5. So he gets a slight damage buff in truck mode, and his defense is less. Now defense of course doesn't mean just hit points, it also means maneuverability and things like that, whereas only his toughness is going to be based on this score. And as you notice here, the text in his gray box is different. So when you flipped to this mode, repair 1 damage from each of your Autobots. So that's worded kind of strange when it says repair 1 damage from each of your Autobots. So I don't know if that means that they're offering him their hit point to repair him, or if he's just able to repair each of his Autobots. We'll have to get some clarification on that. And of course now when he's in this mode, it says truck, melee, and leader. So there's that. Now this art, this beautiful art, comes from the Generations line, and the foil is present on every card. So some of the differences in each character, let's look at Bumblebee now, since we know what his starter set has. In this version of Bumblebee, which is the Courageous Scout that's different than the Brave Warrior that comes with the set. So on this version, his damage is listed as 6, his hit points are 10, and his defense is 2. On the one that comes with the card game, the Brave Warrior, his attack is 4, his hit points are 9, and his defense is 2 in robot mode. So, and his ability in that mode is Tough 1, flip 1 more battle card when defending, and his ability for this version is when this attack or defends, and you flip at least 2 cards, flip 2 more battle cards when this attacks or defends. So that's also worded kind of strangely. It almost feels like it's been ran through Google Translate. You think it should say when this card or this character attacks or offends, and maybe they've left the word out. In any case, as with the other ones, here's his different alt mode stats, which in his case, he loses 1 in his attack mode, but his defense stays the same. Now that he's flipped over and transformed, when you flip to this mode, draw a card, then put a card from your hand on top of your deck. So you basically get to switch out your cards, but ultimately you're going to draw your next one next time, but you get a quick switch out. And his is Car and Specialist. So I haven't seen a lot of indication as to what these different icons do, if they do anything, but essentially I think it's going to help people or help their teammates and things like that, because on the other Bumble, well, yeah, so this just has the same thing. This has Specialist on this, whereas on the original one that comes with the game, it says Leader and Melee. So they're different for each character. It's almost like they're different characters completely in the same universe, or maybe from different universes, as it were. So that's that. And then I have some other ones here. That's basically the gist of it. Now, the cards that I have here, these are all common cards. There are 4 types of cards out there on the net that you can read the whole list for on Hasbro's website. So you have common, uncommon, rare, and super rare. So, for example, all the common cards, which would be Hound, which I have here, and then Optimus Prime, Freedom Fighter, and Sergeant Cup, the Veteran Sergeant, and Bumblebee, the Courageous Scout. These are all the common cards that are from that. So there's nothing. It's definitely getting a look at things that you can get ahead of time if you've been to Gen Con or places like that, or a lot of the local comic book and gaming shops are getting 1 such card randomly distributed from Hasbro, which are presumably all the common cards as well. Now from the Decepticon side, of course, we've got Barrage, Bombshell, Flame War, which we saw in the interview, Ramjet, and Drew's favorite, Megatron. Now, these are all also common cards, as indicated. Decepticon Leader, that's the subheader, that's the common card. But there is a version of Megatron, Living Weapon, which is in the rare cards. There's an Optimus Prime, the Battlefield Legend, which is in the rare cards. There are 2 Dinobots in common, 2 Dinobots in uncommon, and Grimlock is in rare. And then for the super rare cards, it happens to be Bumblebee, Legendary Warrior, and Nemesis Prime, Dark Clone. Now, the odds of getting the rare cards, according to the information listed on their website, is that the super rare cards, it's 1 out of 79 booster packs. And then the most booster packs contain 1 rare battle card. That's not to be confused with the character cards. Everything else is just luck of the draw. So again, for full gameplay, every player is going to need a team of Transformers, and you get up to 25 star points to spend for each one. And if you've got, like, Megatron here along with Ramjet, they both take up 10 of your slots. So if you put those 2 in a team, then there's not going to be a lot of room for more. When you add Flame War to that mix, then it becomes a full team. You're done. Those are going to be your fighting robots, and then everything else is going to rely on your strategy and the battle cards to win. So that's just some of the information there. something else that I've noticed about these cards, and I've seen these complaints come from Magic players, and I didn't know how it was going to affect here. These cards have done nothing but just sit out on a shelf while I waited to do this review, and they're already starting to just curl. And I know that Ultra Pro, and I know that Ultra Pro has the sleeves available for these, but it's almost to the point now where if you don't have the sleeves, your cards are just going to curl up and be ruined. This Megatron, he's curled up and warped sideways, and they were not like this when I got them, and I simply just set them on the shelf for a couple days, and that's the end result. So that's something that I'm not particularly happy with either. So if I had to go over the positive side, I do like that there are 40 character cards total, so there is a lot to choose from in regards to what you're going to get as an array of warriors. There's 81 battle cards, all available in this Wave 1. So each booster pack, which these are going to run about $3.99, you get 1 character card and 7 battle cards. So there's a lot of opportunity there to build interesting decks. And the entire list of battle cards are also on this page, which I'll just put a link to in the below section so you can get to it yourself and just read for yourself. But from there are a list of common, uncommon, and rare cards. And there are actually more rare cards than there are the other cards. The rarer the card, the more there are of them to collect. So things like Battle Ready, Brainstorm, Crushing Size, Data Pad, these are common cards. You're probably going to have several in your deck. Whereas you get the rare cards, Cybertronium Bow, and then there's a version of Data Bank, which is different than Data Pad, and Dino Chomp, which is what Drew showed us during the interview as just one of the cards that he held up. That was a rare. So it should be interesting. Now, also on this list, you won't find any from the SDCC Gen Con exclusive packs. The one that came with... actually, I don't know who's in those packs yet because I haven't opened mine. I think it was Windblade or Slipstream. Yeah, if I remember the female jet. So those are listed separately. They're not even on this page. And all this stuff that you see are from Wave 1. So with Bombshell here, for example, looking at his cards, it's going to show you the wave he's from, Wave 1. CT T07 out of T40. So the CT T07 out of the T40 set, which is the Wave 1 stuff. So that's for the Decepticon side. And then on the Autobot side, I guess they all do the same thing. And then you pull up him, for example, and Bumblebee. This version of Bumblebee is 08, and he's Wave 1. So there's going to be more waves. There's going to be more kinds of cards. And this is going to be something that they're going to continually grow on. Now, one of the things that I didn't ask in the interview, and I did send out a question to my contacts to see if this was something that was going to be the case, is whether or not there will be any type of sanctioned tournament play on these cards. Right now, it looks like there's not, and there may be something that we get in the future, but I'll get a definitive response on that. So if you're wanting to go and play at your local store, you can. But I don't think there's going to be any sanctioned tournaments, prizes, or anything like that. So I'll take some pictures of these cards just to show you some of the ones that I think the art looks really good. Oh, and something on this one, you notice, he doesn't actually have a special ability. So the way he described this was that some of these special abilities are just factored into their stats. So he's Bombshell, so he's tough, and he can fight, but he doesn't really have anything to assist the other people. But there are Insecticons that do, and there are abilities that if you have more Insecticons in your team, then they are going to be able to benefit from whatever perks are offered there. And you may notice, too, that these Insecticons aren't just the 3 original G1s, but they're also the toy-only G1s that you had, Barrage, Chop Shop, and that sort of thing. And so those are Insecticons that you get as well. And he's a ranged warrior, and he's an Insecticon class. So I haven't had a lot of time to go over the rules in great detail, but I'm sure a lot of this is covered there, which those are also downloadable from their site. So check that out. We'll have more information when we get more cards. I'm still waiting to get the deck in the mail. They were going to send me to review this. So once I have that, we'll unbox and open that so that we can just see how this works and how it might work and get a good look at the battle cards as well, and maybe just play a mock game just to show you how it would work with these other cards that aren't in the set. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and like our channel, as well as like the video and share it out. And more videos like this will come. So until then, go and check out our previous video for the interview if you want to get more in-depth information on how the game works and the ins and outs of what you get from the actual gameplay versus what I've showed you here. Alright, thanks. See you next time.